OnePlus Open, a bold device that stormed onto the North American markets to try and snatch the crown. Everything about this device is ambitious. The huge camera bump, the ultra lightweight for a large folding phone, the wide outer display. This phone opens up with hopes to be the one, plus more in your pockets. Unboxing videos and showcases are very overdone, but what you get included with this phone raises the value of this already heavily discounted device. A 65-watt charge to 100% in less than 40 minutes charger, plus a free case in the box, all for a cheaper price than Samsung and Google's phones at the same storage capacity. Stop playing with these boys at OnePlus. Samsung, Google, Apple, we need the chargers in the box. We need cases in the box, and we need pre-installed screen protectors on every screen. But alright, let's dig into this device now. The build of this device is a sight to see. The design and aesthetic really draw me in, combined with the jewel of a color, emerald green. These displays might just be perfect depending on who you are. They're super bright, maxing out at 2800 nits, and the crease on the inside display is almost non-existent. The buttons feel nice and are easy to use, and the placement of them is pretty good. There's also the alert slider, which is an old OnePlus staple. Many are excited about this, however I barely use it. The software is another area where this phone is determined to raise the bar and take the crown. OnePlus Open has one of the most feature-packed softwares out there with a high level of optimization for the big display. I like how customizing the home screen works on this device. You can move, delete, or add apps and widgets all without exiting editing mode. The ambition continues with its take on multitasking. The taskbar allows up to 4 apps and then 2 recent apps. You also have the app drawer easily accessible from the taskbar and a recent files window that allows you to quickly drag and drop recent files from your phone to any apps that support this. Instead of just having 3 big apps on the screen, you have something called the canvas mode, which allows you to bounce between 3 apps at various sizes to accommodate different workflows. You can zoom out with a 4-finger pinch to see all the apps at once, and you can even interact with them while in this state. Saving canvas setups as app groups is also here so that you can quickly resume where you left off. The app groups also intelligently save which orientation the apps were in. OnePlus Open has a really good take on floating windows, which can quickly be accessed by swiping and holding up. This form of floating windows gives you 2 modes. The first mode allows you to move and drop the floating window wherever on the screen and interact with it too. The second mode minimizes it and snaps it to the side of your display, keeping it in view but out of your main focus. Resizing is quick and it stays in the app's original aspect ratio for better or for worse. If you resize to the bottom of your screen, it'll full screen the app. Floating windows is good on the OnePlus Open, but you're only limited to 1 app at a time. Aside from good multitasking features, there's also some cool stuff like air gestures where you can scroll up or down on certain apps or play and pause videos on YouTube. Although it barely works in my experience, I think it's cool and ambitious to try and add features like this. There's also this setting where the phone can automatically answer a phone when you lift it to your ear. I think that's pretty cool and seamless. Off-screen gestures allow you to open any app when the screen is locked just by drawing on the phone screen while it's off. This is cool, but it also needs to unlock before opening the apps, so the experience is not as smooth as it can be. It also doesn't work on the inner display. The software is clean and has subtle detail things that make it a good experience. One of my favorite things about this version of Android is how subtle hints pop up when you're doing something. For example, when you're multitasking and you're resizing a window, the phone will let you know when you can release to execute a gesture, like expanding a window or closing a window or full screening a window. The phone will show you little hints like that to let you know when you've completed the gesture and you can let go. This feature is sprinkled all the way throughout the software, making it very helpful but also unintrusive at the same time. I also think the software experience is simple and smooth enough for your average person to enjoy versus other versions of Android that can feel intimidating, like One UI for example. With this huge camera bump, the cameras literally have to be good. There's no exceptions. The question is if they are actually good, and I'll let you decide as I roll some footage. Personally, I like the colors and the look that these cameras output, but others might not like it. I also think all the extra features you get in the camera app, like being able to shoot log footage and manual controls for both video and photography, the more features the better when it comes to camera phones, because it allows you to have a more versatile experience when using these smartphones. For a more in-depth comparison, subscribe for those future videos. Okay, so now I'm gonna share my experience with this phone in its daily usage. So when I first got the phone, it wouldn't connect to my Wi-Fi at all. I had to restart it multiple times before it could work, but after that, I never had any issues with the Wi-Fi. I just want to note that in this experience. Overall, this phone, as expected, performs well in day-to-day usage. I don't experience any lag or stuttering at all, really. I'm pretty sure it handles gaming better than most foldable phones in terms of heat dissipation. Video editing in LumaFusion is a decent experience. The app on Android has so many bugs that it's hard to say if the issues arise because of the device I'm using or if it's just the app being poorly optimized. But in general, it performs well when video editing. But yeah, when it comes to just your everyday things like texting, opening and closing apps, navigating the UI, this phone just performs well. Battery life is pretty good for a foldable phone. I've been getting around the same amount of battery life as I did with my Fold 5, despite the OnePlus Open having a bigger battery. It does have crazy fast charging to make up for any lag though, so even if the phone dies throughout the day, I can charge it up really quickly. But on a side note, the charging brick and the cable are pretty bulky, so they add up a decent amount of space for a charger in your bag. Alright, so in this last section of the video, I'll talk about things that I don't like. So the first thing I'll mention is that for some reason, many apps are stuck at 60 Hz on this phone. It's very noticeable for me, and it throws off the beautiful experience of the screen. You go from super smoothness at 120 Hz to 60 Hz very quickly and very often. It's just a jarring experience. Hopefully this gets fixed with an update. And then there's the hinge. With the past couple of Samsung Folds, you've been able to angle the hinge at almost any degree without the phone opening or closing. But with this phone, it only has like 3 real positions: open, 90 degrees, or closed. For some people, this might not be an issue because they generally use foldable phones in 2 states, open or closed. But for me, I like to use my foldable phones in any way possible, in all the ways that they can. And just the hinge design in terms of like staying open or wanting to close, it's not something that I enjoy. The shape of this phone is nice to look at, but ergonomically, this phone is probably on the lower tier of smartphones I've used. The corners are sharp and feel boxy in my hands. The camera bump causes my finger to sit in an awkward position that makes me want to put the phone down. And this position has caused my hands to cramp whether the phone is open or closed. I know many people will laugh at me and say, oh, my hand's too small, or this and that. I'm complaining about cramping. But this is something that I haven't really experienced with many other smartphones. And I use a lot of smartphones. For my hand to start cramping with this phone is a pretty unique and interesting experience and issue. Many praise this phone for being the best foldable phone due to the bigger outer display, but in my opinion, the ergonomics kill most of those advantages. This phone's weight balance is so off, which makes my hand overcompensate when using it. It's very easy for the phone to tip over and fall out of my hand if I don't hold it securely. Another thing to note is this is so important to me because I use my phones one-handed very often when I'm like transitioning throughout the day, going from one place to another place, or carrying something in the other hand. So one-hand usage is very important to me. Alright, so the case is another thing. I appreciate the unboxing experience and included accessories, but they gotta do better with this case. The quality feels very cheap, and the front piece does not stick well, and it moves around a lot when using the phone or even just gripping the phone. In my experience with foldable phones, this will 100% cause scratches over time on the front frame. Another thing I don't like is the lack of wireless charging, but this is not a serious issue. It just leaves my Tesla's built-in wireless charger cold and lonely when I daily drive this phone. My final dislike is how cool but limited split screen is. OnePlus seems to be using an Apple-like philosophy that gives you a cool feature but tells you how best to use it for yourself. You can't freely adjust the sizes of the apps in split screen, and you also can't properly display all 3 apps on the screen at once like you would on a Z Fold 5. They only give you like 2.5 sizes for each app when using 3 apps at once. The canvas idea is cool, but in my opinion, it's not executed as well as it could be. Give me more freedom and flexibility to truly make this a canvas I can paint with strokes of productivity. But aside from my few dislikes, this phone is a really good phone and a welcome competitor to the North American foldable phone market, and more specifically to the Canadian market. Out here in Canada, we rarely get love for cool tech products and devices, so it's good to see that OnePlus launched it here too. But this has been my OnePlus Open full review. Stay tuned for more content on the way, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But until then, we out. Peace.